Hello, friends and participants of the global community. You're welcome to this session of the Experiential Leadership Series in Africa again, where we try to explore and leverage on the experiences of former leaders to build the capacity of sitting executives, board leaders, among others. We want to be able to interrogate and unpack their experiences while in governance, while they were in government, and they should share their weaknesses, their challenges, and their success stories. We believe the experiences matter and they inspire. In this session, we are honored to have His Excellency, the former President of Sierra Leone, President Ernest Bai Koroma, who is also a member of the ECOWAS Elders Forum, among other global institutions. He's a well-recognized global icon, and since leaving government, he's been involved in several other activities. We also have as panelists Professor Carl Lehman, who has joined us from the American University in Washington, D.C., and as well, Dr. Ofio Nganyahu, who is an international strategic advisor. We would dive into the theme of today's session, which has to do with reaction versus proaction, rethinking the leadership experience in Africa. And Your Excellency, we're honored to have you here in this session. It will be good to start this process, this session, by understanding what you've been involved in since you left government in 2018 at the sub-regional level, the continental level, and globally. Next slide.
Thank you very much for having me on this platform, and let me also thank our two panelists and all those that are with us out there listening to this great platform. I served as a two-term president 2007 team. Since I left office because of the legacy, good governance, peace and security, and the massive structural development took place during my presence. I was engaged quickly by the AU, ECOWAS, and other organizations to serve in various capacities. Since 2018, I've been involved in a lot of things that EU, principally election monitoring, serving in various capacities to review issues of the recent high-level retreat had in Nairobi, Kenya, which the AU under the Commission of Peace Security is trying to evaluate efforts they have made in peace building, peace consolidation, and mediation the past 2 decades, how they can silence the guns, try to come up with new approaches on addressing the current issues. This is based on the fact that, yes, we have made progress in Africa, but we have not gotten there. I have also been engaged with ECOWAS, also in section in Togo, Zambia, under the order of the group of Eastern Security Protocol efforts. Additionally, campaign for nature also championing the African Peace Engineering Corps. So many engagements that I will not have enough time.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I mean, it appears since you left government, you've been very busy. So, within the context of gaps, we've been bedeviled, for instance, in Africa, reactionary intervention, reactionary policy. You said you've been involved with the African Union, ECOWAS, region, sub-region. We want to look at your experience in the Gambia, when there was an issue, former president Gambia, he wanted to hold on to power, and you were part of it. People out there would wonder, and they keep wondering, what happens behind the scenes when you are engaging a leader that wants to stay in power, who has also lost its popularity and what happens behind the scenes?
Well, let me start off by saying that the critical issues we had recently a similar situation. Zambia. That was at the level of the president. The president had serious things that they have not been speaking terms. Then opposition leader who is now the president, not to refer to the president as his president. President would always have great statements that was on tenter. Zambia was on tenter. Same thing. We managed to navigate to ensure that we all understand it's not about president or the Gambia. It is about Zambia. It's about the future of Africa. It's about the world. So at some point, you have to limit the extent to which you proceed with your personal ambition. At the bigger picture. It's been Latina. We are experiencing difficulties. Rather, focus on what is beyond you. What is beyond you that realize, because you are a politician. It is not about yourself. Canvass the support of the people. Make promises. Transform their lives from what they earn, extreme poverty, a new level. If it works, you will not have people. You will always enjoy support. If it doesn't work, then there are difficulties. And then you have to look back and say, I delivered. These are the issues.
Excellency, at the point of telling the leader that needs to look at the bigger picture, for the country, for the sake of the country. And they are so resolute about limiting their focus on the smaller people, about their space, and how to maintain or sustain power. What do you do? You
that is the time you intensify. That is the time you spend more time trying to uncover what is it that it, what is it that it means that I think only about me. And we must also realize, even with the control and command without peace, I mean, people have to constitute a formidable force, even when the police say, when they compromise their professionalism, because it's not for them to protect person or people and property, defend sovereignty.
Thank you so much. It'll be good to remind our participants that you can send in your comments and questions on the comment box for His Excellency, and we'll be able to share with him. This is an interactive session where you have the opportunity to engage with the principal who has experienced governance and keeps office and is into several other activities, and you also have the opportunity and the platform to get feedbacks on some of the knotty issues that may be challenging, some of the knotty issues that may be of concern within the sub-region, within the continent, and within the globe as relates to our special guest. At this point, Your Excellency, we would like to go dive into your role, your stewardship as a leader in Syria. Let's try and unravel how your leadership has impacted and the legacy that you have also left. You have also left behind. There's been the allegations about the travel restrictions, about and one wonders again, what's the relationship like relating to your travel?
Well, I have served as but they are ready and prepared to give advice and support if they are called for. I came in at a time when we were just 5 years after. The focus was peaceful. Also developing the country, providing it with the required infrastructure that will attract investment, providing a democratic space for everybody participating freely, and also ensure that it becomes an inclusive resource ruling part in the country to participate. We also paid attention to the unique issue of transforming our youth. Our country has a youth people to ensure provide them with the necessary education skills that are required for those. But also for those that have created level of working, how to engage them, expose them to leadership. Same thing with women. We provided. So it was an environment that was growing, that became attractive, inclusive. And that was why we attracted so much foreign direct investment. That is why we are recognized by players, World Bank, MCC, and other customers from the country within our period. And it's a country that's the most peaceful and the third most peaceful in Africa. This legacy. And recognition was given even at the level of President Obama, including me as a member of 4 countries that have transformed themselves, that have supported the growth of democracy, that have encouraged development of young people. And so that is all what we worked towards. But a new government came in and decided to just said every other person that worked in MAD, including myself, is a criminal. Have to be banned from constitution, traveling. So these are issues that in the fullness of time, we as a getting there, very close to the point where now some of the issues that assure you that kind of popularity I still enjoy, but transformation effected in the country, unprecedented growth experience, and the fact that a country as small as ours to be big of the fastest growing economy at the time, only in disrupted like growth. The growth rate before Ebola was at 13.2%, and that's the highest not only within the South Africa. So this is where we are.
Excellent. Thank you for that clarification. So, in essence, you are not restricted.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I have been out. I've only been all over. Political gimmicks.
So, thank you once again, Your Excellency. At this point, I would want to invite Professor Carl Lever to give us an intellectual perspective to our theme today. Reaction versus proaction, rethinking the leadership experience in Africa. By the way, Professor Carl Lever is a well-known global scholar who is a friend of Africa and particularly Nigeria. I may go to say that. So, Professor Carl, over to you.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you, Ade. And it's an honor to be in dialogue with you, His Excellency Bai Koroma, and great to finally have an opportunity to dialogue with you, Dr. Afyong. I want to reflect a little bit on some of the general things that people like me, scholars like me, are seeing in some of the ways trust in leaders and political institutions is playing out in Africa these days. And I apologize that I had a little bit of difficulty hearing some of the comments from His Excellency. So I'll do my best to connect my thoughts with some of his comments, especially about ECOWAS and so forth. One is that we know from surveys across the continent and from around the world that people in Africa, citizens in Africa, express some of the highest levels of trust in legislatures, in political parties, in the presidents, and even in their militaries. And so comparing that to other parts of the world, that's a little bit unusual. And it's something that sets Africa apart. So for example, in countries such as Burundi and Namibia, trust in the African president as of just a few years ago ranged at about 80%. So a tremendous amount of people trusted in the presidency. And remember, trust is a little bit different from evaluating the performance of a president, but those two things are very closely related. So when His Excellency Karoma was speaking about his own record in office, a good record of performance, especially in a part of the world or in a country where there's a great deal of economic inequality, a good performance can really increase trust. But performance and trust are a little bit different. And so this is so much so that I think this raises important questions about how leaders fit into democracy and what democracy means as an approach and as a style and as an institutional arrangement for governance. And I pose the question that way because a paradox of democracy is that on the one hand, we need trust in order to give citizens time to do other things, like to go to school, to invent a new app for the phone, or to participate in the economy. When people have high levels of trust in their political leaders or in political institutions, they're able to do other things with their lives, and this can contribute to the country in important ways. But on the other hand, in a healthy democracy, you also need some level of mistrust in order to motivate people sometimes. And so when trust declines in leaders, when they're no longer sure if their leaders are doing these things off on their own, then I think citizens work to hold their leaders accountable. And this is where I think some of the challenges facing Western democracies perhaps meet and converge with some of the challenges facing some of Africa's democracies these days. And that is that people are often demanding accountability and demanding transparency. And so, less enlightened leaders may feel pressures from outside the ballot box and from other places. So I just offer those thoughts.
Sorry, Carl. Can you be a bit louder?
Sure. So I offer those thoughts, just sort of as an opening set of comments about how scholars such as myself are thinking about leadership on the continent and how Africa stands apart from other parts of the world, including Latin America, for example, where you also have high rates of inequality, but interestingly, much lower trust in leaders. And this is something that democracies around the world are grappling with. But I think Africa stands out in those important ways. And I think that raises important questions for how democracy functions and how the institutions of democracy interact with the people's expectations. So let me just offer that as my opening comments. And again, thank you very much, Ade.
All right. Thank you so much, Carl. And thank you for the insights that you've provided regarding trust, the need for trust, and also mistrust at some point to build consensus in a democratic setting. I am going to come back to our other panelist, Dr. Ofyong, to speak to this subject matter. She's here live, and we would obviously be hearing her louder than Professor Carr, I hope. So please, Dr. Omar.
So we're talking about across the African countries that right now we continue to advance. Because in engaging with His Excellency, you need to know him. You know, when I was talking to Ade earlier in the day, I said I was breathing in by Corona. By Corona changed the landscape of African politics. And so I want to know what value actually are you impacting? What value are you giving as you continue to engage in different types of states, etc.? For us to have seen the transformation and the change in your country, we want to know what you are, who is Bai Koroma. We want to know what value you are bringing because we've seen you exporting, we've seen you transform an economy, we've seen you consolidate. I'm more interested in what Bai Koroma brings to the table and how we in Tel Africa can actually sell this as a product. Because it's important that the nations in Africa see the value that he's bringing to the table. We want to know what value you bring to the table. And then again, I have a lot of questions. And then again, we talked about election and promise. And I have studied His Excellency Bible. Doctor, peace, and also employment possibilities, etc. In African countries, we see election. However, during administration, so what did you do? What strategy did you put in place to ensure that there was a match? Because we've seen that there was a match. What did you do that we can also replicate in different countries, have the same result? Another question.
Let's thank our panelists for intervention, issues raised. But I think I will want to just narrow it down to trust. This is something you have to build. This is something that should determine the relationship between the elected officer, president, and the people. Before election, we all go out there promising people, the world, that it's where it stands. We have been into the habit as politicians to promise, talk about the resources in Africa, talk about the abundance of land, of minerals. This is something that we have trumpeted over the years, and nobody wants to hear about it because we already know it. We know we have this, and yet we are poor. We know we had diamonds, yet we are poor. We haven't arable land yet. They're only 45. That issue. And politicians jump on this. That is why I told the CLU that we have to say things to you that we believe we can do, not empty promises. And this should be seen as we have to measure our deliverables to the point where you will appreciate that, yes, we are doing some good. I promised the Sierra Leonean public that I am going to work the business, I said. And there was some misinterpretation here and there by some other people, but the point here is I came from business. Politics as business. Best step forward. I'm saying that business rather should not come into politics. It's better addressing the issues. That was why when I came in, circumstances have gone to the that every facet of growth needed attention. But we had limited resources. We had limited time. We had limited support. To prioritize. That was why I came out with the agenda for my first time now. Prioritize infrastructure, energy, social services, and kind of just 5 billion efforts. And that was where I poured my time, resources, attention, and then we spread it all over the country. Yeah, evenly. Not seeing why did not support me here. How you earn trust. When people out there begin to see things happen, told them in 100 days, the darkest would dim as the darkest capital. And we worked 24 hours to meet the deadline, and we met the deadline. Everybody was shouting, we build trust. I will complete road construction, I will transform Sierra Leone to a work here. 1 year, 2 years. So okay. All everything blows up when you build trust. And then the people out here say what he says he will do. I will not come and say what I say I do. It's the people based on their experience. Transforming the lives. It is about transforming Africa. It is about building and when I talk energy, to deepen the democracy. I enacted the 2008 Anti-Corruption Act, that is still the main fighting corruption. Office of the Auditor General to become very powerful. And you enhance transparency and accountability. You have to be transparent, you have to be accountable, even as a you have to ensure that you give space to opposition parties to participate. I encourage, there was no member of leadership of your opposition, right? Not because I want to cow them out of existence, no. I want to encourage them to be right. Because when you criticize me, I know what to do. Address the issues. Popularity. So these are the issues that president, radio stations, community radio stations, newspapers, and everybody was enjoying this foreign direct investment. This was what gave us kind of a growth rate that's unprecedented. It's a kind of a building blocks. You start by making limited ones. Then you build and let the people come. That is why I am still very relevant in politics. But I want to retire. People are still saying, oh, you have to stay here.
So, Your Excellency, this very impressive. He also said, not concerned.
I do. I don't. I drive myself. The thing is, I am restricted by the turnout of the people. You go and visit a location, you only have 5 minutes of freedom. 10 minutes and beyond, it's all thrown with people coming to care you, coming to pay you. And that is a kind of support.
Said something quite specific. Leadership, governance should be approached from a perspective of business. Seen as business, milestones, and timelines. And since you left, is it the same message that you are passing across to the youngest generation, or to the missions or contacts, the mediatory efforts that you are involved in? Is it the same message that you are passing across?
That people should work with. It is not the best of the message, but if it has worked and we have not seen any better message, then I think we have to use it until the time when we reconfigure it and have a better message. So I think for those that are interested, it is a good message. Pass it to younger generations of people out of the country. So the missions are being after elections. I sit down with the elected president and have a tete-a-tete, providing with some tips on what should be the next steps. The interesting thing is that most of where I have conducted elections, I am constant church with the president. They call me regularly. We talk about issues. Right, it's not existing, but I think the fact that I have maintained that relation and they're still in church and very much engaged is an indication that maybe some of what yes.
I wonder how you're going to respond to this. And I'm talking about elections. In the run up to elections, but the government was engaged to have a trusting relationship. In a way, it impacted on the preparedness for the election in 2018. Exiting then, and a new government, obviously was coming in either from the party or from the opposition party. In terms of funding of the electoral process, how did that situation turn out? What lessons can be drawn from that in terms of leadership transition?
I think to ensure that we, as a government, are equipped enough to run our elections without support from anybody. If say that I was that there were promises from countries support towards the elections. But support that was provided, we came to realize and other, because maybe there was some other interest. And we should allow African countries, African people, to vote in the government they believe can serve their best interest. We should not be, our democracy should not be defined. That, I mean, we should not say a country is only democratic when there is a change of government after 2 terms, or a change of a political party after 2 terms. Can allow a party to continue in office for as long as able to provide for the people. You don't have to one person running after 2 terms. Yes, of course, personality will change. But if the parties perform well, you aim for the competent people, they should cannot use the 2 term a change of. And that is what the people out there believe, that, oh, it's a 2 term. It is not a 2 term. If you don't perform after 1 term, you can be voted out, as we've had in other 2 terms is when you perform. And I was campaigning for the 2nd term, and it was an easy campaign for me, because I was not promising anymore. I was asking people to look at what I have. If you want me to continue to finish up some of what I have started, or to start something new, and you're satisfied, you can vote me in. It was a simple campaign. But it's not a 2-term campaign. So we had issues of it. But at the end of the day, when reality that we have to bend backwards and provide support, we did. The government had to, go in and provide all of the support. Electoral process, and it went very well. It went very well, and we are not happy with the outcome, the way the numbers announced, but that is not for us to determine. These are issues that are taken to the judiciary for determination.
So it wasn't intentional.
I promise that I will not say 1 day beyond my time. Elections we are going to be transparent, and that we supported the electoral process, supported it fully.
You contested your first time, contested and won as an opposition. You were in government for 8 years, and your elections, for 10 years, sorry, and your election after the 10 years resulted in an opposition party also taking the mantle of leadership from you. Do you see that as a strong message to other African countries about the development of the electoral process?
Well, that is what I will consider as being one party changing hands within the political party, but the party changing hands with other party in a clear, acceptable democratic process. Now, our party is trained to have been the first political party in Africa in 1967 take over governance from opposition to we have had repeated it in 2007. For me, it builds the principle After opposition coming to governance will be to opposition. But that is not, we are not going to limit our democracy in those elections and changing.
So actually, that brings me to subjects that you have been advancing, that ECOWAS should not focus solely on election monitoring. They should begin to focus on monitoring governance. How does that play out?
Well, we have been addressing the issue of democratic reversals, not in Africa, in the South. At the level of the EU, as recent as November, we had a high-level retreat how to do issues, vision, ECOWAS has tried to reach protocol on now because of the reversals. Tomorrow we will be having the Elders Forum meeting in Abuja. That's the ECOWAS. So what has happened just recently, we have had 5 coups to fail, but we have succeeded by this 28th and 29th mission is dialogue in Africa, engagement, person, presidential. You see the urgency, all those concerns. Have to rethink to know that we have made successes. There has been progress, no doubt. All of this is happening whilst a lot of people. But why are we suddenly seeing reversal? Why are these reversals welcome reversal? Why are they? Where was there dancing and cheering of Mali when democratically elected president go from office? Why in Guinea? Why in Burkina? Most presidents are democratically elected presidents. So it tells you that we have to look at the issue. And my suggestion was made during protocol. And that is, we have made some sort of monitoring elections. We still have to improve on what we have done in monitoring elections. But what is absent is now, how do you ensure that you monitor governance so that you can address the early warning signs that will give rise to a welcome when the particularly elected president ensure that the issues on rights violations and the issues of restricting the space for the citizens, for the journalists, for the opposition party. Why are opposition parties unnecessarily restricted? Why do you arrest opposition leaders because of the stance? Why do you shut down a newspaper because of a publication? These are the issues that are ingredients of this. Why do you make the country so polarized that people believe that if I don't belong to a particular group, I don't come from a particular region, I don't come from a particular tribe, even with the best of qualifications, you will not find a job. So these are the issues we have to give real-time monitoring to ensure that we can come in at the right time and speak truth to power. Speak truth to power. Because it's about really ensuring that that is why it's now a preventive kind of engagement rather than reacting when all damage has done.
I think he basically speaks to the theme, proaction, action. And we say, when we're talking about the first person, the person have to be able to separate the person. Do you think at this point we should start thinking about profile, which is proaction, the reduction of the masses, of the reaction when we have these reversals? As we continue to dive deep into it, or is it the past?
I want to, yes, just to add that we made emphasis on a democratically elected president being removed from power. Is it about the position of being a democratically elected president or the disconnect in terms of performance? That's another. So, I mean, marry that and
okay, the person and the party sits the presidency's performance. Now, for most institutions, you are elected president, equal of opportunity. We have to practically of they are going to see step one. If it's performance or otherwise, when he is affected because of non-performance, when it enjoys success, the party also benefits. That is why the individual that is positioned to be president, to lead the party to an election, the very individual that the party is comfortable. We elect people and we celebrate after. But sooner or later, you come to realize that the promises that have been made, there was too much of talk. A lot of promises. There is now a reaction because of the lack of performance. Come protect it. I have to protect myself, protect myself, protect. And repression comes in. Comes in. Start to lose confidence in public. You start to speak with people who you are comfortable, and these guys will tell you what they will not go out there and speak truth to power. They will not talk to you openly and freely. If you want to have your own man in the military, be in charge. Your own man in the police, be in charge. Your own man in the judiciary, those are instruments. At the end of the day, it will not help. It is you that false conflict. That should be monitored. You already have what we call peer review mechanism. Now in time for you also have to ensure that the issue of sovereignty is protected, because other people will say it's my right. But we now have the areas of the key. What you benefit so much that we have the African Free Trade Agreement. We are still less than 20% in trade transactions amongst ourselves. How much are we benefiting? The world will tell you that they are providing Africa 34 billion in aid. But what goes out of Africa is very close to 200 billion. So who is losing? Effectively. There's a new thinking, a new positioning of leadership to ensure that right the wrongs.
Your Excellency, thank you once again for this very stimulating interventions from you, where we're learning and we're gaining a lot from your experience here. I want to speak to this cliche among leaders, especially ones that want to hold on to power. When you hear this, that my people are behind you, my people are with you. When you are interacting with some leaders, sometimes, how do you respond to that? What do you take away from that? I mean, because that is often what we hear. My people are behind me. My people are supporting me. So I'm on the right track. Even if they are not.
Well, these are statements that we hear out there all the time. But where you have constitutional term limits, we have to advise ourselves not to go beyond term limits, even when you are most popular of presidents. We have to borrow the leaf from after you. These were all pronouncements made out there. But I was committed to sticking to the provisions of the Constitution. And you will realize that some of these people who are out there in the radio and proclaiming that after you, the people that are now in the opposition, blaming you if you wanted to stay on. So it also tells you that some of these people around self-serving. That is the experience you have. Now, you sit back in moments of retirement, you look at what your people are saying, those that have worked with you, say about you and what you thank God you advise yourself that some of the advices they provide are not pursued. Now you see, realize that they are serving their interests. So it's not just a question of the people. There has to be structures, there have to be constitutional time limits that we should observe. It's not, it shouldn't be an argument, it shouldn't be an issue. Time limits, time limits. And whether you are the most popular or not, you can serve the country. You can still continue to serve the country. You can continue to support the government, continue to support it, continue to ensure that you relate to the younger people, you become a role model. They come to you for advice. And I mean, after serving 2 terms, what more can we do?
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. We want to seize this opportunity again to invite Professor Carl to make 1 or 2 further comments before he leaves us. Carl, are you still there?
Had a little bit of trouble with the sound, like many listeners and viewers, but I do want to reflect on a few things that His Excellency mentioned. One thing that really resonated with me was him also talking about speaking truth to power. And it's wonderful to hear a politician and to speak in that sort of frame. And one of my reactions to that is that I think leaders are not heroes. And it's dangerous, I think, in democracies when we start to think of leaders as heroes, even though we often want them to be. And yet at the same time, we really do need leaders to inspire. And so when leaders are able to inspire, and I think there's great evidence that His Excellency Bai Koroma was able to do that through his many years in office, it means that people are not just working for you, that people are working with you, and that there's sort of a shared understanding of the public good and a greater common good. And people are inspired by that. So I think another sort of problem with with thinking of leaders as heroes is that it leaves too much of history up to chance. And I think it's really been wonderful to see Africans and other citizens around the world and global citizens recognize that they have power within themselves that comes from the very nature of democracy. His Excellency also mentioned the importance of sovereignty. And sovereignty is, of course, on everyone's mind today as people in Ukraine are suffering from a terrible war. But there's also sovereignty of the people, and sometimes sovereignty of the people can get carried away when I think people turn to a leader. So I really want to say that I appreciate the balance that he struck between thinking about leaders as role models and as people who have a vision of the common interest and who have the courage to act upon that in a way that separates their private interests and their individual goals from the better good of the nation. And so thank you very much, Ade, for inviting me to participate in this program. Maybe someday we can do it in person.
Thank you so much, Carl. Always a pleasure to have you around. We're doing it virtually because of COVID. Obviously, we would have His Excellency in a conference room, facing the audience and speaking to them. But then, because of COVID, among other things, we resorted to having it virtually. So thank you once again, Carl, and we look forward to further interactions on this. Carl, have a safe one. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Your Excellency, we're going to be rounding up on this session very briefly. There's a question from an individual who is interested in the elections that is coming up in Sierra Leone in 2023. And I mean, by the name Lamso V, he or she says that your country is heading to another election, general elections in June 2023. How do you assess the preparedness of the Electoral Commission and the security sector, for instance, for a free, fair, and credible election?
Well, the dates for the elections have just been announced by National Electoral Commission, and they have indicated the activities leading to the elections. Important one is the registration of voters, and that is key because that is where you give the opportunity to every voter to be able to be registered for he or she to exercise their civic responsibility. But we have to wait and see how the process is done. It has to be an open and transparent process. The voters should be able to know where they register, it's where they will have to vote, the distribution of the polling stations, because it's always a key issue. I would say that on the security and the NEC overall assessment, I think they have to do a lot to improve on the experience we have had since I left office, experience on by-elections. We have had by-elections, the security issue was not properly addressed. We have had by-elections in which it's outright really use of power. This famous by-election in a constituency in Freetown 110 that was conducted 3 times because of obvious reasons, and we saw the police not up to the task of providing the expected security. Government officials using their authority to manipulate the system. NEC officials, by-elections, outrightly changing figures. These are things that are not acceptable. We hope that NEC will look into all of this and ensure that the coming elections will not be fraught with this difficulty. And the security situation will be such that everybody is protected in every corner of the country to A, campaign without any hindrance, vote without any hindrance, exercise your right, and ensure that the votes are protected. Because these are the fundamentals that, if not addressed properly, will undermine the integrity of the process. And if the integrity of an election is compromised, then you have a problem with the legitimacy of the outcome of the elections.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I would allow Dr. Ofiam to also give us last comments before His Excellency provides us his closing remarks.
Positive governance is progressive. We come to realize that we have the Elders Forum and a couple of other initiatives, including South Africa, that is providing and are providing platforms that are required for reforms in leadership across Africa. We have a teeming population of youth and women that want to participate in governance and leadership. So how can you factor this into the conversation to ensure that we have equality across participants and possible candidates in governance?
Before His Excellency responds to that, we want to apologize to our global audience for the loss of voice at some point in the process of this engagement. Network in Africa, we are still working on it. So, Excellency.
Yes, well, I think these are very important issues that the forums, platforms like Tell Africa, the Elders Forum, the Coalition Dialogue in Africa, and even the AU and ECOWAS should look at how do we get our women more involved. How do we ensure that our young, because 60% of population is now specifically for women more populated than men folks. We have to, for us to maybe shorten the gap, we cannot close it. We have to just narrow it down. We have to look at ways of that. How do we give the extraordinary support to participate in party politics at all levels? We should be even, looking forward to days when the chairmanship of a political party is being pursued by a woman. How do we ensure that we have more House of Representatives, members, senators, for us back home, members of parliament, women? Rwanda is doing a good job of it. One or two others are catching up, but most of our countries are lacking behind. With all that we know, I personally have that we're there, but the performance was far better than the counterparts. So you see, we have to encourage. Some of them are shy. Some of them have certain social or cultural restrictions. These are things that we have to get them out of this present enclosures, break out and come and participate. I think there is a lot to benefit when you have these two groups, the women generally and the youths, because they will come with new energies, come with a new thinking. And the whole thing about politics is about change. We have to look at where the change comes from.
Fantastic, fantastic, Excellency. You stressed how. The question should be, and I'm not sure how you're going to respond to this. Benefit of hindsight, reflection. It's not how now, it is you, while you were in the government, what did you do regarding the youths and the women?
Well, everybody will tell you out there that I occupy positions they never did. As a Chief Justice, as a general in the army, senior police officers, heads of critical institutions, National Revenue Authority, other institutions, the current Auditor General that I appointed. And I had the highest number of youths in cabinet, ministers, deputy ministers, ambassadors, they were all of us, spread all over. And they've never enjoyed it. So, I mean, I have a story to tell about what I did for women, not only for those occupying offices, but even the gender acts that I passed during my time. It's a story told. And young people still, that is why I think there's getting so much recognition and support, even out of office, because of some of these things that you have done.
Awesome, awesome, Your Excellency. As a parting word from Steve on this platform, what should body leaders, the youths, the women, and on a larger scale, talking about African relations, what should they be doing to change that culture or the increasing decimal factor of reaction in terms of leadership, in terms of policy engagement, reaction in terms of policy and leadership, in terms of governance at the highest and even at the lowest level? How can we begin to change the dynamics to get people to be more proactive going forward?
I think I will say we have to be empowered. Empowered youth, empowered women, somebody who is free, knows what he or she wants, and go out there and advocate for the nation. Without no disrespect for our culture, our society. But if you are not empowered, there's a great difficulty. I think we have to emphasize the discussion of empowerment and giving our people the opportunities. If you are not given an opportunity, then you will not even know your capacity. But you are given an opportunity to perform, you are given an opportunity to compare yourself with other people within your country and out of the country. I think it will lay the basis for a great transformation. That is why I want to encourage Tell Africa to continue with these engagements of experience sharing, not only at the level of the president, but even at the middle and the younger generation, and within societies, within an environment. It is a great responsibility. It will be a great task. But I think that is the least we can do to help contributing towards transforming Africa. And there is so much we have to do within such a limited time that everybody has to be engaged fully. And this is a 24 hours engagement that should be done as a matter of utmost urgency.
What a way to come to an end of this conversation. We can keep going on and on with His Excellency President Bai Koroma, because I mean the way he's seated is positioned to continue to tomorrow. And we want to thank you, Your Excellency, for this honor and privilege to engage you on this platform. I'm sure there are a few things that are takeaways from so many people, so many of the participants across the globe. Unfortunately, we're not able to take all the questions that have been sent in because of time, and Your Excellency, because of his schedule as well. We need to permit him to go, for his other scheduling. And we appreciate him for honoring us with his availability. And we want to thank you, Your Excellency, again. And we hope that the youths, the women, and the leadership in Africa can continue to tap from your experience and your expertise as long as it takes, so that Africa can be better for it, ECOWAS can be better for it, our countries can be better for it. Because looking back, you also had, looking back at history, you also had the opportunity, if you wanted to say, okay, I want to stay back in power and do whatever you want, you could have done about the Constitution. But then you have proven again that you are one among the leaders in Africa that people can still believe and rely on. And we commend you for that. And we look forward to further engagements with you, Your Excellency, not only on this platform, but other initiatives that we can work together on within the continent and globally. I want to most also sincerely appreciate our panelists who have made time to be available for this very special session with His Excellency President Ernest Bai Koroma. I want to thank Professor Carl Levin, who joined us from Washington. I also want to most importantly appreciate Dr. Ofyong Anya, who also made herself available for this event. And we look forward to further engagements. For those that have tuned in, for those that have joined us, we hope that you will look forward to the next session, which obviously would be stimulating. And regarding Tell Africa, every session comes out with a policy brief that would be shared not only at the decision-making level, but also at the level of those that are not making decisions to improve knowledge and practice within this field. And we appreciate you for joining us at this event and look forward to having you again for the next session. Thank you so much. Bye.